Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the Strategy Professor, and this will be episode 2 of our legendary orc campaign in Total War Warhammer. So, last time we beat these guys in a fight, they ran away outside of our range, and we just discussed a lot of really basic systems. We learned what the WA system is, we learned some of the strengths and weaknesses of various units, we just sort of talked about what the overall orc strategy is, which is pretty much just dominate the map as much as you can, be very aggressive, don't worry as much about diplomacy, and really utilize this wall mechanic to its maximum effect. So we always want to be fighting, we always want our wall all the way up to here, and we just want to try to take as many territories as possible. I don't think I mentioned this in the last episode, but my overall goal is to try to gain at least all of this territory by turn 50 or 60 at the latest. And the reason for that is I want to gain, I want to be ready for chaos when they come in. So that means I want to control this choke point. I want this town right here, and I want to have this set up for a whole lot of really high tier military units so that I can just, have 2 or 3 generals here just beating back the chaos, and then if one of them, gets really hurt or loses a lot of units, they can just step back here, convalesce a little bit, and hire some more units. And the reason I need this entire region down here is because I don't want any more enemies as much as possible. I don't want to get attacked from multiple angles. So I want to keep all of the action right here, and I want to have all of my, lords around in this area. I don't want to have to be sending off, a 20 stack army down here to take care of these dwarves or to take care of these orcs that are trying to sneak up and like raid my lands or something like that. I want all that taken care of. This is the edge of the world, so to the best of my knowledge, nothing can come from back here and flank you once you get this corner. So this is something you can count on for really dependable income, and just not having to worry about other factions attacking you. Because if you own the territory, no one else owns the territory. So that means that not only do you get money from like this little corner region, but that means that these other surrounding regions are even more secure so that you can get money off of those regions. And if those regions are secure, then that means these regions are more secure. So I think you can understand that line of reasoning pretty well. So I just want total security in the bottom right. I want a lot of cash. I think around turn 50 we will get, I think it's the second time they mentioned chaos on the campaign. Sort of the old bard guy will talk about chaos coming, and here's Archaon and all this other stuff. Then we're going to get 5 boats full of chaos rolling up right here, almost 20 stack. They're usually like 18 to 20 units, and they're just going to start destroying everything. So I really need to be ready for that this time. That caught me very off guard in that 20 turn orc campaign that I had. I was able to go down there and neutralize them, and I had already secured all of this area in that campaign. But it was just a real pain to try to deal with that. Fortunately, I was already fighting some humans over here, and so I could just kind of double back and just get some peace treaties with them, just double back and take care of business over here. But I would like to have all this ready and just be prepared for that, like right off the bat. So that's kind of the early game. Obviously, end game, I want the entire map, but we're going to start here and then probably creep our way over here a little bit, and then ideally creep our way through these mountains as well and take all of this stuff. The dwarves are particularly good in the mountains because they can use the underway. So we're probably going to leave the undead alone here, although we might fight them later if we want to, and we're going to leave alone the Empire for a little while. And the reason for that is I expect chaos just to run through all of this and just destroy everything. And there's not really a lot of protection here. Like, they can come at you from so many different angles that it's really hard to defend. Whereas if we get these mountains here, there's some very tight chokes we can defend, and we can funnel them all. If they try to run it up the middle, we can funnel them all right at this pass, because the chaos cannot use the underway. So that means they're not going to be trying to run through all of this snow to backdoor you, and they can't just jump around these mountains to get around your blockade here. So I'm sure there are some creative ways they can bypass this. But in my experience, a lot of times they just run it right up the middle and just try to attack you right here. So that's kind of my overall strategic goal. So that's what's going on with the Greenskins. Now we have a little bit of move left. So what happened to me in the other campaign that I'm a little scared of is I basically moved right here, and then both of these came down and attacked me at the same time. So this guy is already kind of hurt, and he's got 4 units. This guy has 7, so that would be 11. So that would be 11 on 7 here. And my guys are already partially hurt. They would have 2 lords. although one of them is pretty hurt. They would have 2 lords to take me. Now, these guys do have goblins. But so do I. So, I mean, really, we would need these black orcs, these guys to be very strong if we were going to do a 7 on 11, and they're just not. They're not really that strong. Grimgore's in pretty good shape, but these guys are pretty weak, and they're pretty hurt too, because these guys are almost worthless. Doomdiver's going to get some hits in, but not huge. And we saw how effective these boars are. It can barely beat archers. I mean, you know, I was using them in the wrong way. I overestimated how much damage they would do to those archers. I should have backed up and charged them again. Although if I did that, they would get to shoot me in the back while I was running away. So that was just annoying. But these certainly aren't your strongest sort of frontline units in a massive fight. Like, they're just kind of your sneaky units that come in from behind to clean stuff up. So, in other words, I don't want to get double teamed. So, the question is, I'm looking how far this guy can. So he can only run. See this little red line? I believe that's his run distance. So he can only run to like right here. And the way he was able to fight me last time is he could just reinforce. So he couldn't run all the way to me. He ran to here. And then because I was so close to the border, he was able to attack me with this guy and reinforce with this. So I just need to make sure my little circle, my zone of control, this circle right here, is not touching this border. See, right now it's touching the border. So I need to get away from that border. So I think if I move right here, as far away as possible from the border, then he's not going to be able to attack me. Now I am opening myself up if I do that to these guys attacking me. But since these guys are a different faction, they can't be supported by them. So as long as I don't move in this red line, and as long as my, you know, red circle here is outside of this red circle, this is fun with geometry today, guys, then I should be safe. So, you know, this is really threading the needle, but I think like right there, yeah, I think if I move right there, I should be safe. I mean, let's take a look here, a little bit closer. Move here. Okay, so I'm barely in it right now. So if I move here, I think that will put me outside of the range. So I could always, you know, if I'm really scared, I could just run and get even further out of there. But I want to be able to recruit this turn. I want to get to 17 as fast as possible, and I want to get reinforcements to go take these guys out. So I have good vision here. I know no one else is going to sneak up on me and fight me. The only potential person is him, and I'm out of his range. So I think that's my move.
Let's go.
Let's double check this. Okay. Yes, so I'm outside of that range, so they cannot reinforce and pull that tomfoolery that they did last time with me. So I'm going to go ahead and buy 2 orcs and 1 goblins. Goblins are not very combat effective, as you've probably heard me call them garbage several times now, and that's true. But they're also only 75 gold. So as you can see, I'm kind of balling on a budget here. So, to speak a little colloquially, kind of balling on a budget here. So I'm not going to be able to just fill this out with all orcs. It's just going to be way too expensive. So I'm going to have to sprinkle in some goblins, and then these guys can just be fodder. Like, I can throw them up and just try to tie up units, or I can try to flank with them or something. I'll try to find some creative use for them. But, you know, when you buy these guys, just know they're probably garbage, but they're very cheap garbage, just to fill up your roster and get you to that number 17 without completely breaking the bank. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so let's talk about buildings here. I would say real quick, but this is probably going to take a second. But I'll be as swift and informative as I can be. So the orcs have a tremendous diversity of both buildings and units that you can get. And this doesn't even include savage orcs. If you're kind of wondering, like, how do I get savage orcs? And I was wondering this for quite a while in the old campaign, because I just love the savage orcs from kind of a war perspective. Like, they just come in with these, like, war paint tattoos, and they just go crazy on people and attack. I mean, it reminds me a lot of kind of those old Celtic warriors, right? Like, just coming in, you know, no armor, just tattoos, and just, you know, going wild on people. You have to get them from very specific savage orc areas that you occupy. So if I come down here in these Deadlands, occupy this, and I think there was one over here at some point. But this is where they are. So you come down here, when I start occupying these towns, I'll get a very special building chain that lets me build savage orcs. So they get an entirely new chain of buildings that lets you get the savage orcs. You can't get normal orcs there. You can only get savage orcs there. So it's a trade-off, but I think it's really cool. So if you're wondering where the savage orcs are, that's where they are. You have to get a very special region to acquire those. And they are much better against armored units, and they're just much better against ranged, but they're not as good against... I don't know. They have lots of trade-offs. Basically, they don't have any armor, but they have physical resistance of 20%, so they're really good against armor piercing because it still blocks armor piercing. And they have a whole lot more attack and a whole lot more armor piercing, but they have a whole lot less defense also. So they are really just your run in and just, you know, they're going to kill everybody or die trying kind of thing. And they're also immune to psychology, so they, you know, fear, terror, all kinds of stuff like that doesn't work on them. So I imagine they'd be pretty good against undead also. But let's talk about units we can get for now, and then we'll work more with the savage orcs when we get down there. So, you know, the most conspicuous building is just your core infantry building. You just build this up. You need to get to level 4 to get the black orcs. These are the best infantry that you can get, and some of the best infantry in the whole game, because they have really high armor, they have really high melee attack, and they have really high damage piercing, and a high charge, incidentally. And they're immune to psychology. So they're very expensive. They take 3 turns to build, which is quite annoying. I think anything over 2 turns that's a bit extreme. So you really have to devote some time to sitting down and, you know, grabbing these guys. But once you get them, they're just tremendous. And you get a bonus, so where it's going to cost 25 less gold per turn because we have Grimgor Ironhide. So they're only 225 per turn, and they're extremely good. So let's see, the Orc Boys are 112. So they're about 2.5 times the Orc Boys. And so I'd say they're probably at least twice as effective as they are, if not more. So quite good. You want to get up to tier 4 really quickly so that you can get those units. Orc Biggins, also quite good. They're very good against monstrous units and large units. So they're good against cavalry, good against other trolls, things like that. So they get a +8. So that's pretty good. If something has a special bonus, then it's to the melee attack and to the actual damage. So at first I thought it was just the damage, but it actually includes the melee attack, even though it doesn't say it. So it's just like charge, how the charge mechanic works, except it lasts all the time, not just 10 seconds. So that would give him 46 melee attack and 50 damage versus cavalry and monsters. So they are quite good, and they only take 2 turns to build. So kind of in your mid to late game, this is probably going to be a huge chunk of your army when you're starting to face a lot of cavalry and monsters. Now, the Black Orcs are better in most circumstances, but they cost more money. They take 3 turns to build instead of 2. So it's kind of a trade-off. Night Goblins aren't really that great. I mean, I experimented with them in the last campaign, and they get to put poison on people, which sounds really cool. You know, it has a nice debuff to it. And then up here you can get Fanatics, which I thought were going to be amazing. Like, I thought they were just going to one-hit kill any unit that they run into. Well, not monsters or lords, obviously, but like if you ran them into infantry, it was just going to, like, you know, knock out like a quarter or a third of the infantry and just kill them. It doesn't. The damage, I don't know exactly what it is, but I found it to be very, very underwhelming for how difficult this unit is to use. So basically with the Night Goblin Fanatics, if you walk up and the enemy gets in range, your unit will throw out a random Night Goblin. You cannot choose the direction. He might even come back and hit your own guys. So he just comes out somewhere in front of you and moves in a random direction. He swings this ball and chain around, and anything that he runs into, it deals some damage. Not nearly as much as it should, like I said, but it still does deal some damage. So the problem with this is, of course, you have to get very close. So these guys are pretty terrible in combat, so you have to get really close to do it. And you can't control the deployment. So it just comes out randomly. So you can't even control when it's coming out or where it's going. So it's really hard to make strategic use of that. Also, if your goblins just come up and you just want to fight them in melee just to get the debuff, or those night goblins, there we go. Just to get the poison debuff, your fanatics can come out right in the middle of combat and just walk, just ram through your entire line and just do so much friendly fire damage because you can't control when they come out. And I think you get 3 of them, and they have a internal cooldown of like 10 seconds when you cast them. So I found myself most of the time just walking out, trying to deploy one, hoping it did damage, and then running away as fast as I could so that they wouldn't deploy another one and it wouldn't hit my own people for friendly fire. So I like the lore behind Night Goblins. I think they're really cool, but they're just not that effective. So you're mainly building up this tree to get to the Black Orcs and Biggins, but this is a very useful tree to get to. I don't like the missile infantry that much. They're pretty uninspiring, honestly. Although they did beat back my boar boys last time, that was just because it's legendary AI. I don't think they'd be nearly as good if I use them. It even says they have poor accuracy. So, I mean, they're pretty trash. But I might have to get one or two early just so that I have some kind of missile unit just to balance out all the melee that I have. Because there's only so much melee you can use, and you're just going to get peppered with missiles from the enemy. So, if nothing else, I just want to sit there and shoot their missile infantry with my missile infantry, just so that there's a new target for them to aim for. They don't even have a shield. Like, what the heck? So like the dwarves have 80 to 100 armor and a shield, and they deal way more damage, and they're way more accurate. Now I understand that's the dwarf thing, like they're supposed to be good at range stuff, but the discrepancy is just astronomical. So these guys are very bad, but we might just have to use them early. Okay, so what are things that are good then? If all of that, half of that tree is kind of shady, what's actually good? Trolls. Start right here. You want to get trolls ASAP. Like, get these guys immediately. As I said in the last episode, some streamers and other people have just kind of dismissed the trolls as just being pretty bad. It's like, oh, they're garbage. They have low leadership. They always run away. They always die. It's because you have to use them carefully. Like, it seems like you should just be able to run up and destroy everything with the trolls. That's not true. So you need to put them with the rest of your infantry, like I described in the last video, and use them as very strategically placed damage tanks that deal very high armor-piercing damage. So that's what they're good at. So look, 70 or 65 armor-piercing damage. That is tremendous. Like, just think about that for a second. If you watch the first dwarf video, I explain how armor works. Basically, armor-piercing is at least as effective, or at least is twice as effective as normal damage. So let's say that this was 65 normal damage against 65 armor. That means that you would only really deal about half of that. So you would only deal 32 damage because armor is going to block half of it. Now if you're facing something that's even higher, so if you're facing a dwarf that has like 90 armor, now he has 50% more armor than you have damage. So that means he's going to probably be blocking, somewhere in the neighborhood of 65% of your damage. So what this basically breaks down to is this says it does 90 damage, but because it's armor piercing, the real damage is probably closer to 200 effective damage. It deals a ton of damage, especially against heavily armored units that are going to negate a lot of your other damage. So, dwarfs. That's what this means, dwarfs. When you fight dwarfs, trolls are invaluable. You absolutely have to have them, because these goblins and even the orc boys are not even going to put a dent in those dwarves. They have so much armor, so much melee defense, it's just not going to happen. They're an absolute nightmare for early orc units to deal with, especially goblins. Like, these are just completely laughable. In my 90-turn campaign, I've flanked like these orcs with like 3 battalions of goblins, and I was like, okay, got them, got them surrounded. And they were just sandwiched by, like 600 goblins or something. Barely killed anything. They just slaughtered me with like a fourth of the units. Now, yes, they have legendary stats, but just in general, dwarves just absolutely obliterate early orc units. So you really have to have armor piercing damage. And these biggins don't even have that much armor piercing. Let's see. 12. Still pretty respectable. It's more than the orc boys. But it's still, until you get to black orcs, with their 30 armor piercing, you're just not going to have the manpower. You're not going to have the gusto to get in there and go toe-to-toe with dwarves. So this is why you need trolls. You have to have them against dwarves. Like, it's not negotiable. You have to have trolls. So get those, put them on the front line, sprinkle them with your melee, and they'll work wonders. Now, you have to keep them very close to your general, and this is key, and this is what a lot of streamers mess up with, and probably what a lot of players do suboptimally. people don't keep them close to their general. They have to be close to the general because their leadership is trash. They're gonna run away. So if they're close to their general, though, they will get a leadership bonus, and that means that they're much less likely to run away. They're going to be much more combat effective. Also, regeneration. You really need to utilize this bonus as much as possible. So that means that over time, he is going to heal a ton of damage, these trolls. So that's why you want them on the front lines. They're taking nice, steady, predictable damage, and you're able to heal it up over time. If they get spiked with a lot of damage, so if you just run them out in the field and they're just getting bombarded with artillery, or they just get completely surrounded by these very heavy damage units like Slayers, the regeneration's not going to help at all. So they're going to die too fast. So you want them taking steady, persistent damage in a long fight, and they're going to heal up a ton of extra health. So I don't remember what the exact number is, but it looked like it was like 50 a second or something like that when I was watching the trolls in the other campaign. So it is quite a significant amount of regeneration. So you want to make sure you leverage that as much as possible by keeping them alive and in the fight as long as possible, taking steady, predictable damage mixed in with the rest of your infantry. So, and they're relatively cheap. It's only 200 upkeep, so that's great. That's awesome. Oh, one more thing about the regeneration that you want to keep in mind. You can only regenerate up to the amount of health that you start the fight with. So if you come rolling into a fight with a troll that's 500 health, and you're thinking you can be cute and like hide in the forest and maybe let it regenerate all the way up to 6,500, it's not going to happen. It'll only regenerate back to 500. So I thought I was being cute and did that in a campaign. I was like, oh yeah, I can do this fight. I'll just let these trolls heal up all the way. And they didn't heal, and the fight was a lot closer than I wanted it to be. So don't get tricked into thinking that regeneration means it heals everything no matter what. It only heals up to what you start the battle with. So you'll also notice this is on a tier 3 building. So that means you can get this in one of your secondary towns very easily. Like if I take Carrick Drawn here, I just have to upgrade this one more time and I can start getting trolls. This means you don't have to put it in your main building chain, which is extremely helpful because there's so many of these useful buildings that we'll talk about here in a second that you really want in your core town. You're just not going to have room for everything. So just go ahead, put the trolls in a secondary town. You're going to have to slow down your growth a little bit to beef up one of these towns, but the orcs get a ton of growth, which I'll show you in a second. So it's not really that much of a problem. Not as much of a problem as it would be with the dwarves if you want to put a high-tier dwarf unit in a secondary town. Orcs can do it a lot easier. Yes, you won't be able to upgrade to giants, but giants are like a million years down the line. It's like going to be at least turn 80 or so before I can get giants. It takes a very long time to get up to the maximum growth. The building costs 1,500 by itself. It's just going to take a very long time. If you want giants down the road, that's fine. Just go ahead, get rid of this in the secondary, and then you can move it over to the main building. You're going to lose a little bit of cash off of that, but realistically, I just don't even really build that many giants. I use the Ragnarok Spider most of the time instead, and we'll talk about why here in a second, but basically you can put this troll building in a secondary town and be perfectly fine for at least, the first half of the game. So just go ahead and do that. That'll save you a slot over here. Okay, so what are these other buildings that are important? So trolls, ASAP, very important. Tech this up very soon just so you can get to Black Orcs, or at least Biggins. Very important. That's kind of the bread and butter of your army. And this is the seasoning here with the trolls, to go with the food analogy. Also, Tinker Bench, ASAP, immediately. It says it only unlocks Goblin Rocklobber, and you might be thinking, okay, the Rocklobber is not that important. And I agree, it's usually not that game-breaking. But the catch here is you cannot build any technology until you have the Goblin Tinker Bench. So it is gated by a tier 3 building that you have to build. It's not even that great in the first place. It only makes Rocklobbers for you to get these technologies. So you want to get these going as fast as possible. It doesn't cost you any money to get these techs. It's absolutely free. So as soon as you get a Tinker Bench, then you can start teching these. I made a huge mistake by not getting these techs in my first campaign. Excuse me. But I made a huge mistake by not getting this earlier in my first campaign. So you want to go straight for that Tinker Bench, like immediately as soon as you hit tier 3. And you want this one to be in your main building chain because you want to get the upgraded Tinker Workshop for these bigger upgrades here in a second. But so put it in your main building, your main settlement, and then that lets you build all these techs. You kind of have to go straight up the middle with these techs, and then you could kind of venture off on the side if you want. It takes a very long time. Like, I think some of these are like 8 turns maybe for the clubs, and then 12 turns for the Ragnarok Spider. It's something like that. So it takes a very long time, much longer than the dwarf technology, and there's no way to augment it, at least not that I've seen. Like, the dwarves can sometimes get followers and other things that give you extra research rate. I have never seen that with the orcs. You're just kind of stuck with this very subpar research rate. And a lot of these techs are very uninspiring, you know, for the amount of effort that goes into this. Like, weapon strength plus 10% for greenskin units with spears. To my knowledge, almost nothing has spears. It's just like the very initial goblin units have spears. And that's about it. I mean, there might be more. Tell me if there's more in the comments, but I really don't think so. Maybe the savage orcs, I can't check them right now, they might have spears. So maybe it's for the savage orc boys. Oh, I guess, okay, so the spider riders have spears too. I believe the spiders have spears also. So there definitely are some units with spears. I'll have to investigate that a little bit more on my own time, and then I'll rethink that and get back to you guys if I think that's good. But right now, I really don't think that's that impressive. It's just a very limited amount of units that's going to affect. Yeah, greenskin bows are pretty terrible, so I wouldn't get that either. Once again, pretty bad. These wolf rider units are going to be outdated by the time you get this, so they are really fast, but you're going to replace them with spider riders when you get to tier 3, and this requires tier 3 to even start this tech, so this is already outdated by the time you could get it. Extra armor for boar riders, that's okay, but you know, you might only have 1 or 2 boar units, you know, in your army, so because as you saw, they're just not that great in a straight fight. Archers were beating them up. Like, you really just want to flank with them and hit from behind, so they're kind of a liability if you get blocked. Like in that fight that I lost in the other campaign that you guys, you know, will never see, where I got obliterated, part of the key strategy the computer used to help beat me was they didn't let me flank with this. So they kept like an orc unit just sort of hanging out, not engaged, at the back of the fight so that I couldn't come up and flank. So the AI does know about this, and if they force you to come at something head on, they're going to win. So, you know, having more than 2 boar units is a liability in an army, in my opinion, so this is not that great. Extra leadership for goblin units, so decent, but you're really not going to be fielding that many goblins outside of the spider riders later, but that's okay, I guess. Leadership for orc units, pretty good. Heavy clubs, this is actually very relevant because this is going to give your trolls an extra 9 damage, and some portion of that is going to be armor piercing. So we already talked about how crucial trolls are, especially against dwarf units. So this is actually quite useful, but I think it takes 8 turns to get it, and you have to get all these techs first. So this is definitely something to consider. 10% extra reload time for artillery. I mean, that's okay, I guess. This right here gives you 35% extra reload time, so you could get up to 50% reload time. I mean, that's definitely respectable, but not. I don't think it's super great on its own. Either way, you have to get it, so it doesn't matter. But this is where the choice becomes interesting. You need a Goblin Workshop, which is the Tier 4 building. So you need to start this as soon as possible at Tier 3, and then get the research, and then maybe while you're waiting on your Tier 4 building, if it takes a second, then you can get the heavy clubs. But once you get to Tier 4, you have to make a strategic choice. Do you want the Ragnarok Spider, or do you want the Doom Diver right away? You can't build either one of these units without this tech. So don't get fooled into thinking, oh, if I just get this, you know, Tier 4 Sacred Spider Grounds, I'm going to be able to build a Ragnarok Spider. False. You have to have the technology first. The same thing is with the Doom Diver. Just because you have the workshop doesn't mean you're going to be able to get Doom Divers. And it's not really that clear in the tooltip here. And I got hustled by that. In my 90-turn campaign, I thought I was just going to be able to build this Ragnarok Spider as soon as I finished Tier 4. And I just hadn't really noticed that, oh, oops, I have to have a tech for that. And by the time I realized that, you know, it took me another 30 turns to get to what I wanted to do. So be prepared, know that's coming, get the tech ready for it, and then I think it's 12 turns. So you can get one and then you can get the other, but I like getting the Ragnarok Spider first. This is a very, very strong unit. checking the time here. We still have a little bit. Very strong unit. So let me go to his unit card just since I brought him up. Okay, so this chain of buildings is awesome. So we'll start with the Arachnarok Spider. Okay, so he's expensive. He's 500 a turn upkeep. I think he costs 2,000 to hire. So quite expensive. But super armor, 150 armor. So there's almost nothing outside of legendary lords or giants that are going to crack that armor. So a ton of armor. And then he has 54 melee attacks. So pretty decent attacks. He poisons. So poison gives you basically minus 20% to just a ton of different stats on average. So makes people less likely to hit. It hurts missile damage. It knocks out their vigor, knocks out their speed, lowers their armor piercing damage. So it's quite good. And then the melee defense is kind of whatever. Once again, you should not let this guy get surrounded. He should be in the middle of a huge pack of your melee. So you have to play around this low armor defense. And he deals 400 damage a hit. I mean, that's almost like having another legendary lord. That's amazing. And then his armor piercing damage is 300. So the vast majority of his armor is just going straight to the dome. Like, it's so good. Remember to think about armor piercing damage. This is, almost, like having double damage here. So he's really dealing quite a lot. He also fires, oddly enough. So he has a pack of goblins on his back. I think it's like somewhere between 8 to 12 goblins, and each one of these guys is firing. And I think each person does 48 damage. It might be that the entire volley from all of them deals 48 damage. But either way, you have a bunch of people shooting, also applying poison. I don't know if you can attack one target and then train your goblin missiles to attack another unit, so you could apply poison to both. I'm not sure about that. I only was able to use these guys a little bit before I started the idea for this YouTube channel, and I started doing the dwarves, and then I started this campaign. So I don't know. We'll have to figure that out together. But either way, this is just phenomenal. Tons of damage, tons of resilience. It's really good. He's pretty fast, 57. He's got Strider, so he can run over rough terrain. So he's great. And he staggers. So I saw a video that was a straight up fight. I think it was from Maximus Decimus Meridius, who makes a lot of very deep statistical videos about Total War games. And he was doing a 1v1 with the spider versus the giant. And the spider absolutely crushed the giant. And it's because he has a stagger mechanic. So when he attacks, he stuns, so he will knock people down or make them stagger backwards, or just otherwise disable them for a second or two. And then he's attacking again and disabling them. And then he's also applying this poison debuff to lower the amount of damage they're doing, to lower their melee attack. So he is a phenomenal 1v1 combatant against other lords and other monsters. So if you can, try to get that 1v1 engagement, be close to other infantry units, but see if you can get him to go over and do that 1v1 engagement, because he just looks like that's really where he can shine. Okay, so building up to the Arachnarok, though, you have these wolf riders who are they don't seem that great on paper. So let's see here. They've only got 20 attack, 20 defense, 25 weapon strength. So not great on paper, but they have 94 speed. This means you're able to get places quickly, which means you can go tie up their archers very fast. So that's really what you use these guys for. So you go run around, take out their artillery, take out their archers, just be a real pest, and not get bogged down too much, but just run around and be a pest. And they're only 75 upkeep, so they're extremely cheap. So once again, this is a great way to round out your army and give you a few more answers to their missile units, if your missile units are terrible, which they are. So this is a decent initial building. The archers are not really that impressive. I mean, it's just 60 damage. They have 100 range. They can fire while moving, so that's good. But I haven't been super impressed with them. They just don't do a lot of damage. Although, let me see here. 16 versus 21. These have 5 piercing. I can't imagine these guys have much piercing. 1 piercing. So yeah, they just really don't do a ton of damage at all. I really don't even know their purpose. I mean, they're mobile, which is good, so you can run away from and kite things that are trying to attack you. But it seems like you would definitely lose heads up versus any other ranged unit, and you can't really charge into the back, so I'm not really sure what their function is. Because you're going to lose to other missile units, and you don't have a really good charge and attack, so you can't really attack those other missile units, and you certainly can't go toe-to-toe with infantry. So I'm not really sure of their purpose. Whereas these guys, Wolf Riders, actually do have a purpose where you can run down other missile units. So I would definitely go with the Wolf Riders and just not even worry about the archers. Okay, so we're getting up to this tier. For Spider Riders, the Goblin Spider Riders, you want these as fast as possible. These are really, really good. And the reason for that is, okay, so they're fast. They're basically just a better version of these wolves. So they're fast, they do more damage, they apply poison, which has all those debuffs we talked about earlier. They have higher weapon strength, they have higher charge bonus, they have a shield, and they have Strider, which means they're not going to get tired as much by running over rough terrain, like mountains, forests, snow, stuff like that. So these are excellent at running down units, taking out artillery, taking out archers, and these guys even have enough damage to where they can run into the back, and they can actually flank and charge infantry. Now they're not going to do a ton of damage, but they'll do some damage, and they'll apply this poison. So then you get the poison on the infantry as well. So these guys are just phenomenal, and they're only 113 gold, still a very, very low upkeep cost. So for all the utility these guys have, they're not going to be the most brutal damage dealing unit out there, but they have a whole lot of strategic utility. So I like to get a lot of these guys early, maybe 3 or 4 of them in a unit, which is a lot for flankers, but I just think they have a lot more utility than the boars. They might do a little bit less damage, they have more utility, so I'll get more of them. These other things I don't really care about. The archers, same deal, low damage, they're going to get out damaged by other ranged units. At least they apply poison this time, but I'm just not really sure that they have a better purpose than other units. I mean, I guess if I really just need ranged attackers, these are better than the arrow boys. So I might get some of them, but I really think I just want to close the gap and just not trade shots with the enemy and just get up in their face with these Spider Riders and just force them in a melee. I think that's a much better strategy than trying to sneak around and shoot at them. I'd rather just get in their face. So yeah, this is very good. You want to get this unit chain pretty quickly if you can. Boar boys, this is really a luxury if you just happen to have a town that doesn't have other resources. Like this one has gold, so I'm going to get this cave mining. But it's a luxury. I mean, if you just need a couple extra shock units, and they have really heavy armored infantry like dwarves, these guys can be okay. I mean, they have pretty high armor piercing damage. I mean, 18 is quite high actually, and they have a nice charge bonus. They just have really low melee attack and melee defense. So if you can charge into the back and out position people, especially heavily armored people like the dwarves, these can be quite good. But I think that this building, the Tinker Bench, and the Troll Bench all have priority over this building. So you once again, and it doesn't build to anything that phenomenal. Like, yeah, you get a chariot. Okay, you got some Boar Boy Biggins. These are okay. These are cute, but they're not really that necessary. Finally, we have this shaman hut here. So this actually lets you recruit either the Night Goblin Shaman or the Orc Shaman. I think you should always go for the Orc Shaman because they have these 2 steroids that I'll show you when we get one. It basically just puts your guys into a frenzy in melee, and they're going to do so much damage, it's just absurd. And it's really, really good, and it doesn't cost very much. Let me see, Spell Browser. Okay, so I can just show you guys. So this is what shamans can do. So they have, okay, Fists of Gork. So 35 melee attack, 36 melee defense, and 22% weapon damage. This is like that roar thing that I was talking about that's at the end of the middle skill tree. I forgot exactly what it's called offhand, but it's like that, but even better because now you get damage instead of leadership. And it lasts 21 seconds instead of 10 seconds. So, I mean, this is just astronomical. Like, this is so, so good. If you put these on black orcs or trolls or something, like, you will obliterate people. And it only costs 8 magic, and it's only on a 14-second cooldown. So, and by the way, this cooldown starts when the duration actually ends. So, you can cast this once every 35 seconds. When I first started, I thought, oh, it lasts longer than the cooldown, so it'll be up again. I can put it up all the time. No, the cooldown starts once the spell ends, so just keep that in mind. But still, this is just extraordinary. And then this is another one. So for 11, you get 58 melee attack. You guys are going to hit on everything, basically. It's just a ton of damage. So, yeah, I would definitely, this is a premier spell that you definitely want to get. And once again, it's got a 20-second cooldown, so a little bit longer, but it lasts 35 seconds. So, you just want to be throwing these buffs on everybody. Like, if you can throw this on one unit of Black Orcs, you can throw this on another unit of Black Orcs. You can do the roar thing around some trolls. Just get everybody buffed up. They can also stack if you want them to, so you can throw all this on one unit. But remember, after watching the dwarf video, you should have learned that the maximum 2-hit is 85. So, if you get, what is that, 45 more melee attack than they have melee defense, it's wasted, so you're not going to do any extra damage. So I recommend not stacking all of this on one unit, but just spreading it out to a bunch of different units. Either way, the shaman's your man. You want this guy, and you want him spamming your spells. He's an awesome combination. If we look at the Recruit Lord, he's a great combination with Orc War Bosses. So, because they don't have any magic, or Grimgor Ironhide, for example, they don't have any magic, but they do a whole lot of fighting and a whole lot of damage. So then you're just, if you only have them, you're kind of wasting a resource because you're not using magic when you could be. So, put a shaman with them, and then that way, you can use all the magic, buff up all of your people, and you're not wasting that resource. The shaman's not very good at melee, but the Orc War Boss is, and so they kind of balance each other out. So I think a great composition would be Orc War Boss with a shaman. It's awesome. The Goblin War Boss, or the Goblin Shaman, not nearly as good. Like, he has some useful spells, but not that inspiring. Okay, let's see here. Alright, so we have about 17 more minutes based on my calculations. So that's pretty much it for the buildings. So we want to get the Shaman HUD as soon as possible. These other buildings are just pretty good standard buildings. This is your gold building, so you'll almost always get to this 300 income. Quite nice. The idols is extra growth. This is quite a lot more than the dwarfs, so you're going to be expanding very quickly. And then this boss tent is also just really, really good. It gives you obedience and lets you hire the Goblin Big Boss. And if you get level 3, it gives you an extra Big Boss. So in almost every settlement you can get to, or level 4, sorry. Almost every settlement you can get to level 4 once you get enough growth and get an extra Big Boss. That means you can just spam these Big Bosses over and over again. And this is doing something that you want to do on your fringe territories anyways, which is get more obedience. So, whereas with the dwarfs, if you wanted to get extra engineers or something, you'd have to build, you'd have to get all these prereqs and build this like engineering thing over here, and it's just not going to do anything if your army's not there to recruit. This is always useful. So it gives you obedience, it lowers corruption. It's always useful on your fringe towns. So you can just get this in the middle of nowhere and hire, an extra big boss on the opposite side of the world where you actually need him to be. So this is a really, really good layout. So you're going to have a lot of these guys. It's going to be very good. And then this only shows up if you have a cave here, or some other special kind of resource. So they can't trade resources, but sometimes they can use the resources to get special buildings. So in this case, I get an extra cave, and that's actually what I'm going to buy turn 1, because it pays for itself in 2 turns. And I'm really going to need the money to fund this army, and maybe even start a second army here in a second. So overall goal, I'm thinking if I want these arrow boys or not. I don't think I do. I just want normal orcs. So the goal right now is I need to get this up to level 3 quickly, which means I need to take these regions and start putting in growth places. And once I get level 3, I guess we'll go for Tinker, and we'll see. We'll either do Fighting Pit, or we'll do Forest Spider Riders. So we'll see. This is kind of an intriguing choice, but we'll see when we get there. But that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. Okay, so we're building all this up. This is good. We can't do techs for the reasons I just described. Let's go and look at diplomacy real quick.
Foreign powers may be managed through diplomacy.
We can't do a ton in diplomacy with orcs, but you can buy wars and buy peace treaties, or sell wars basically and sell peace treaties. So what that means is you can sometimes another faction will pay you to go to war with someone that they're at war with, just so that they get some extra help with that war. So this is not exploitative. It has lots of risk involved in it. So if I go to war with, you know, let's say these Teeth Snatches pay me to go to war with the Scabby Eye over here, for example. These Scabby Eye can actually send armies over here and fight me. And I've seen that happen. Like, I've gone to war in the Dwarf campaign with, you know, some orcs over here that I thought weren't going to be relevant, and they showed up at my door right here. And I was able to take care of them. But just keep aware. It's not exploitative. It's not free. Like, it has diplomatic repercussions, and it could have military repercussions if they get mad that you declared war on them and actually send units over. So don't automatically just try to buy every war that you can, or try to sell every war that you can. But be very careful in what you choose. Okay, so these guys are at war with Zufbar. I'm not at war with Zufbar. Zufbar's right here. They're dwarfs, and I'm not going to fight them for a very long time. They're kind of trapped in these mountains near the undead, the other dwarfs that will probably want to fight them, and the bloody spears. So I don't mind declaring war with Zufbar. So let's see if we can buy that off of them. Join war against Zufbar. We got moderate, so he may or may not buy it. Let's see. If it's high, that means he's absolutely going to buy it. If it's low, that means he's not going to do it. If it's moderate, that means he might do it. Let's see if we can get 500 here. I think I was able to get that in the last campaign. Okay, good. So he's paying me $500, and now I'm at war with Zufbar. So we have vision of them. They're mad. That's that. Now, I don't think I'm going to be able to get any other ones. We're just looking to see who they're at war with. So they're at war with this guy. I'm already at war with them. Already at war with those people. Or these guys are allies. They're not at war with them. Dwarves aren't going to do business with me because they hate me. These dwarves really don't like me, but they're technically not at war with me, but they don't have any enemies. So that's all I can do. So just real quick, 500 bucks just to check out diplomacy. And that'll be it. I really am not interested in non-aggression packs. Obviously can't do trade packs. I just want to buy and sell wars. Okay. Moment of truth. Let's see if they can ambush me and kill me. I don't think they can. Okay, so this guy's taking out that town. Or he's just running south. This guy's massing up here. What? We just looked at this. Oh my gosh, we just did the math on this. How was he able to run that far? We just looked. So the red circle thing lied to us. He was able to get in range and support. So this is not looking good, guys. This is not looking good. And by the way, when I say guys in this channel, I'm not trying to be gender specific. Like, I'm not trying to exclude women. The English language just doesn't have a very good way, a gender neutral way to address people without saying something like y'all. And I am from the South, if you can't tell from my accent, so I don't mind saying y'all, and I'll say it quite a bit. But a lot of times I'll just say, like, you know, you guys, and I'm just meaning that as a gender neutral term. So for those of you out there that, you know, maybe think I'm this really sexist professor out there, I'm not. The English language just doesn't have a good kind of colloquial term for addressing directly a large group of people that's mixed genders. So I just say you guys. So please don't take offense to that. Okay, so they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fully healthy units. This is an orc war boss. That's going to be really hard to fight him. A lot of those are goblins, and we have a chariot. This is a hurt set of units. They don't have any more orcs left. So this is going to be, what, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 11 on 7. So just about as bad as the last one. I think the last one was 6 on 12. But remember, my black orcs are really hurt. These orcs are really hurt. Boars really hurt. So the only people that aren't hurt are the most garbage units I have. So I can run from this, and maybe they won't follow me. I kind of want this fight, though, honestly. I kind of want it. I just want to see if I can beat it. And my reasoning here is this guy's extremely hurt. Like, he's got 1 HP. So if I just walk up and blow on him, he's going to die. If he dies, it's going to break all the morale of these guys, because whenever a general dies, it breaks the morale of his battalion. Now, granted, they are on legendary, so they probably won't break, but I think I can pretty much neutralize these guys quite well. I can walk up the wolf chariot with my archers, so I can just trade shots with them. That seemed to work pretty well before. So these guys don't really deal that much damage. Yeah, 39 looks good, but remember, there's only 8 units there, so they're only firing 8 times 39, and a lot of this probably isn't piercing. No, almost none of it is. So I think I can use my goblin archers to tie up these guys. I think I can just straight up beat these guys down and kill them. The bigger problem is these guys. So I think I can go 1v1. Grimgore should be able to take him. My guy's level 2. Black orcs and normal orcs should be able to take these guys. And then I can tie these guys up maybe with my goblins. Just stall and buy time. And then get the boars to run in and take out these goblin archers. How much time do we have left? 9 minutes. Okay, I think I can do this. We might go a little bit over on time, but I don't want to cliffhanger you guys. You've, sat with me this entire time, learning about buildings, learning about skills, all of this stuff. So I want to try to give you at least one fight every episode if I can. So it may not be possible. It might just be an episode of auto resolves, but I'll try to give you a fight every episode. So it's not a promise, but it's an intention. Okay, so I'm gonna do it. I mean, this might be campaign ending again, so I might have to start it new. I'm gonna have to take a couple of days off if that happens. I can't, I just need to refresh my mind a little bit if that happens. But I think I can deal with this. Okay, so this is interesting. Okay, this is not the most favorable position because I'm gonna have to run up this hill with this guy. So I have a couple of options here. So this red banner over here means that I'm going to get reinforcements. So this is where the reinforcements are coming from. The reinforcements are the stronger army. So they are the thing that has the 6 or 7 units in it. So, I wanted to kill the weak army first. But, that may not happen because for me to get to this weak army, I'm going to have to run all the way up here. I'm going to be exhausted. And then I'm going to have to fight these guys up here. And then the whole time, these guys are going to be chasing behind me. So they're going to be following behind me with these, wolf chariots. They didn't have a lot of ranged, but they're going to be running up behind me. So I could run over here, like I said, and, take a bunch of the fight up here and then make them chase me. But the problem is I'm going to be exhausted by the time I get up there. And I'm not sure exactly what the buffs to vigor are for the legendary AI, but I assume they get exhausted a lot less than I do. So if we all run up here, that's going to favor them because I'm going to be exhausted by the time their major army gets here. And that does a lot of penalties to hit, missile accuracy, and probably a variety of other things for being exhausted. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that it's bad. Okay, so other option. Oh, there's actually a hidden third option here. So let me see if I can use any terrain. I can't really. Now, obviously, I would like to split these armies up and fight them as fast as I can. But if I do that, then I'm not going to be shooting into this guy. And I'm not really that worried. I mean, these guys might as well not even count, except for the wolf chariot as units. So I really want to set up. Because what I tried in the other campaign was just to surround the guys at the gate here and just beat them in before these other guys come over here. But because these guys are so strong, this is the strong support, then I may just set up here and just shoot at them for a little bit. Like right when they come in the gate and just shoot at them the whole way here. And then I can fight them once they get here. Now, yes, it is going to give these guys time to get over here and fight me also. But I think even with something as simple as just like boar boys and maybe the goblins, I can just run in there and take care of them. I guess alternatively, I could put the Doom Divers here, shoot at these guys as they're running to go support these guys. And then I get a bunch of shots in, and then the computer has to choose whether they want to come over here and fight these guys, or whether they want to chase me over here. I think that's actually what I'm going to do, because these guys are weak. I am going to get exhausted running over there, but this will at least give my artillery more time to shoot. So I'm going to leave these guys here, and then I'm just going to leave, like, I'm going to leave some units over here. See, I definitely want to leave the archers here, because I suspect they might bring the chariot over here to try to shoot my Doom Diver. So, definitely want the archers. Stay in here. And then I think if I just take my orcs, and maybe the boars over there, then I can probably deal with them. And then I can shoot with these archers. If these guys just go straight for here and just ignore this army, then I should be able to stall them with the goblins while I take care of these guys and then come back down. This is what I'm hoping for. So now I don't want them just running like right over here and not crossing the Doom Diver at all. At the same time, I don't want them running straight for the Doom Diver. So I want them to come in a little bit, move around some, start committing to coming over here, and then get shot by the Doom Diver. Then they have to make a choice where to go. So let's go ahead and do this. We'll leave these guys back as kind of bodyguards. And we're just going to ignore formation. We're just running just to go kill these guys as soon as possible. Because this is, once again, this is the weak faction. This is the strong faction over here. So, pretty scared, guys. This could be campaign ending, but here we go. So here's these reinforcements. I mean, they take a second to come in, but they're pretty quick. These guys are coming at me, so I mean, I guess I could just go ahead and get a shot in on these guys, maybe. I mean, there's not very many of them, but just pivot a little bit. Alright, so I'm trying to run these guys down. They're so much faster than me. Okay, running. Okay, let's reposition. Try to fire into those guys. Alright, so 1v1. He should die in like one hit. Okay, so they're trying to run over. Okay, so he's dead. So they're trying to run over and recombine with this other army. But I think we've successfully cut them off. So. Okay, let's go ahead and get back over here. Okay, so they're kind of confused. They don't know where to aim. I'm trying to take out these orc boys. Okay, so these guys are done. Let's just go ahead and run. So this guy's getting... He's still pretty fresh. But... Okay, so they're gonna harass me and shoot me the whole time, which sucks. There's not really a lot I can do about that. I mean... Jesus. Let me just form up here, just so that I'm facing them with my shield, I guess. I think I have to run. Yeah, because they're trying to come over here. And... Alright, so I want to work these boar, get them to walk around. So one more shot on these guys. Okay. There go the shots, and we're going to stop. So we don't want to hit our own melee. So we're running away. We're trying to just buy as much time as possible once again, just so that we want to take these chariots out. Okay, so let's go ahead and back these up. Okay, so we're trying to run with the goblins here. Gonna get our boars around here. Okay, so let's go ahead and, well, let's just get a shot at these guys actually. Just one volley here. Okay, very good. Now let's take out these ranged. Let's get in here and make sure we obliterate this guy. And we're going to try to walk around and get a good flank here. Actually, I really want these archers out of here. So these guys are running. So he's running from archers. Okay, so I want to bring Grimgor over here and 1v1 this guy. I'm still going to be in range for that aura, remember? I was talking about that, how crucial that is. But... Okay, so, come on, get in there. I just want to get a nice heavy charge on these guys. Okay, there we go. You see the charge? Boom. Should take a lot of them out. Alright. Oh, actually, they're still fighting here. I thought this guy was broken. Never mind. We got goblins holding up against black orcs. No problem. Legendary. Hashtag legendary. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Oh, God. Get out of there. I think I may have just... Yeah, I definitely just hit some of my own orcs with that. That was definitely a miss micro. I think I might be able to... I'm just going to shoot for these guys. It's not good to shoot at something that spread out, but everything else is taken up right now. So let me just go ahead and run these guys out of here. You know, they might chase them. They might break. I really hope not, but just go ahead and shoot into these guys. Okay, so fight them again. Let me bring the black orcs over here just to clean this up. Let's go ahead and deal with that. All right, let's get this Doom Diver to shoot over here. So definitely want to fight right there. Okay, so back up. Let's get a shot in. These guys are about to break, so let's see if we can just shoot them and get them to break. Now this goblin guy's about to get destroyed by Grimgor, which is great for this orc guy. Okay, so stop. Don't fire into Grimgor. Let's go over here. These guys are just getting kited all over the place. But at the same time, that means that these goblins aren't shooting at my infantry, so that's good. Okay, these guys rallied. Coming over here, shoot. Alright, that's still a good spot to aim for... Oh god, Grimgor's almost dead. Why is this guy not dead? Where is he? Oh, he's running. So we have goblins taking out Grimgor Ironhide. Shoot that guy down. Okay, let's just charge him here. Shoot at these guys. I don't want them coming back. Okay, so they're running. Okay, so I won. Alright, run these down. Orcs, run them down. So hopefully I got a little bit of street cred with you guys. I should have run from that. I easily could have lost the campaign being arrogant there, thinking I could win this fight. But once again, I'd explained why I did it. They were already very hurt, especially this Lord was kind of the key one. He had like 1 HP. And I mean, you saw how ridiculous, like once again, I mean, this is going to be a theme of the campaign. Like, we had Goblin Spearmen, the very first main thing sitting there, like, really threatening Grimgor Ironhide. So, you know, if they had Grimgor Ironhide, okay, we got him. Oh, that was awesome! I wish I had seen that. I wish I could go back and see it. The Doom Diver sniped him. Okay, let's Doom Diver shoot these guys. So we'll show you a Doom Diver hit here. It's not going to be as cool as the snipe. Maybe you guys saw it a little bit better. I think it was on the screen. I just wasn't zoomed up to it. So we'll just give you guys a little bit of cinematic fun here just for the end, just for our celebration. So, I mean, there's lots of videos out on YouTube of just people, you know, having fun, because the graphics are gorgeous on this. That's why I don't do too much of that, because I have a feeling you guys have already seen a lot of that. But I will do it from time to time just for fun. We'll just do one more volley here, and we'll pay closer attention. Yeah, we can't do too much of that in battle, by the way. I can't sit here and, like, watch lines, because as you saw, it was an extremely busy fight. Like, I had to do quite a lot of microing. I mean, not like StarCraft level microing or something. You know, like the old days, StarCraft 1, you know, 300 APM or something that I used to be able to do when I was like a teenager. But nevertheless, it requires quite a lot of attention to to what's going on, and you obviously can't do that if you're sitting there watching, you know, projectiles. You can actually take control of these doom divers. You guys have probably have seen that as well, but I don't do that, just because, one, I'm probably would be bad at it. I've never tried it. Maybe I'd be good at it. I don't know. But once again, you just don't have time. Like, let me speed this up here. I just want everything to die. Once again, that's why I'm doing this. Like, because I'm probably gonna have to fight one of these armies again. So I want them to have as few units as possible. So actually, it was probably beneficial there that I didn't kill that Lord that ran off the screen last time, where I was like, oh man, that was a mistake. That was actually beneficial, because they would have gotten a brand new Lord that was fully healed if I killed that. So that was actually quite useful not to kill the Lord. So sometimes you don't want to kill the Lord. Most of the time I do, but sometimes you don't. That was one time and it was beneficial. Okay, we'll go ahead and call it. Okay, they're calling it. Okay, so we just about tripled him. How are we looking on time? Okay, so we're definitely over by like 5 minutes. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. I mean, that was a very clutch battle that required a lot of thinking, a lot of micro, and a lot of strategy. And I think I ended up making the right decision. You know, I maybe could have done some of those things a little bit differently. But, you know, we won a 7 versus 11 against legendary AI. Like very early in the campaign. Yes, a lot of those units were hurt, but still, you see goblins taking down Grimgore Ironhide. You've seen archers beating boar boys in melee combat. Like, you've just seen the craziest thing so far, what this legendary AI can do. So all of this is a very satisfying win. Okay, so my guys are pretty hurt. I'm really heavily considering eat the captives. And I want my fightiness up, because I don't know. So it hasn't calculated yet. So next turn, I don't think it's calculated yet, because my new turn hasn't started yet. I'm not sure. But the question is, do I want 228? You see, if you can get more than 100 per fightiness, it's a decent rate. I am going to be fighting a lot, so slaughtering captives could be useful. But 5% replenishment's a pretty good rate too. I mean, that's more than a percentage per 100 gold. I think I'm going to go for the replenishment here, just because I want a little bit more fightiness, and I actually do need to replenish. I'm pretty far away from the town, and yeah, I'm probably going to walk over there next turn, but it's going to take 2 turns to walk there. And I want to be geared up and ready to fight again as soon as possible. And this really isn't that much money. It's only 228 bucks, so not really a big deal. So we're just going to go ahead and get these captives. Neither one of them died. So I might just go kill them next turn, because now they're in this weakened state. I beat them when they're strong. Now can I beat them when they're weak? I think so, because they lost 3 times as much as I did, just about. So let me just walk through these real quick. Physical resistance, very good. Points of magic change. That just means that there's more magic in various parts of the world. Just telling you to look at your map, keep up with that. Okay, so this is the start of a new turn. That means I'm going to be able to stop the episode here, get a save in. Although I might do one more episode here, like rapid fire, so I may not actually need to save. But we'll go ahead and end it there for now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. We learned lots in terms of our building strategy. We learned a little bit about diplomacy. We learned about the skill tree, what little there is to learn about the skill tree in terms of the technologies. And we had ourselves an awesome underdog comeback victory fight there. So I think this is a great episode. So I hope you guys do too. And I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful evening.